boring. Really boring. I don't get it. What's going on? I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. If you haven't seen the Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore film yet, go out and watch it, or don't. Wait until the end of this video, and then you can decide whether or not you do. Because I went to see it yesterday, and I've got to say, I was very, very underwhelmed. Now, I know that there's a lot of criticism coming towards the Fantastic Beasts films, and specifically towards J.K. Rowling and the whole turf war. Turf war? Sounds like throwing grass. Anyway, I've got a whole list of things here. I've got some notes in my notepad. Very scribbly, yeah. So I've decided that I'm going to go through all of this stuff, and I'm going to talk you through what I thought of the Fantastic Beasts film. I've got tons of notes, and I'll tell you what I thought, and you can make up your own mind whether or not to go and see this film, because it's not cheap to go to the cinema anymore. I don't think it's going to be any major surprise, but there will be a couple of spoilers, so if you haven't already seen it and you don't want to know about this stuff, then by all means, log off, go away, have a look, then come back, see what you think, and see if you agree with me. Put some comments down below, we can discuss it, and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Okay, so the first up then is Jacob's wand. In the trailer, Jacob's there holding this wand and sort of throwing it around a lot, and storm clouds and plates and stuff are sort of spinning around his head. It looks like he's doing magic. Is he? No, not really.
I trust you're enjoying your wand, Mr. Kowalski.
It looks like the Professor, Professor Hicks or Dix, whatever her name is. I think she's actually casting the spell for him, but he's brandishing it as if he's casting the spell himself. Very misleading, and in the trailer itself, it looks like Jacob's doing magic.
Can I keep this?
Is he? I don't think so. And I say I don't think so simply because it wasn't really explained in the film, and he's given this wand of snakewood by Dumbledore, and that's about as much as we know. We don't know what snakewood is or what it does. We know it hasn't got a core because Newt says that it hasn't got a core, but other than that, it's just a wand. But muggles can't do magic, so do we ever see Jacob doing any magic with this snakewood wand? No. Unless I fell asleep at some point during this movie, I didn't see that. So what was the point in the wand other than to put it in the trailer and get people along to the movie? Well, I think that's pretty much the only thing it was there for. So don't get too excited about Jacob having a wand. There's not really any point to it. There's a couple of funny bits where he says to the kids in Hogwarts, "No, I got this for Christmas." He didn't get it for Christmas, and I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. Number two then, Grindelwald. Obviously he's been recast from Johnny Depp. I have no doubt that Johnny Depp would have absolutely smashed this, but Mads Mikkelsen wasn't too bad as a choice, I thought, because I thought, well, you know, he's a good actor. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to give him a shot. Now, in a whole load of different Harry Potter Facebook groups and online forums and stuff, he was getting a right old bashing, and I don't think that's fair, because it wasn't his fault that he applied for a job. The fact that Warner Brothers fired Johnny Depp, that's a totally separate issue to the new guy coming in and doing a job. So I thought, okay, fine, you want Johnny Depp, totally get that, but at the same time, that's not going to happen. Mads Mikkelsen is now in the role. Let's give him a shot. So I was quite keen on Mads Mikkelsen actually doing a good job, and I was really rooting for him to really smash it out of the park. I'm a Doctor Who fan, so I'm kind of used to different actors playing the same role. So I didn't think it was a major big deal as long as he kind of kept to the core of who Grindelwald was, which he sort of did, but he's turned into a boring suit wearing politician with slick hair. Now, I can't really talk much because my hair's crap most of the time, but at the same time I just think that he's a boring politician guy. He didn't have that sort of coif in his hair that Johnny Depp had. He didn't have the goatee beard, which I thought kind of made him look a bit more menacing, and he didn't have the contact lenses, which made him look typically weird. Now, whether that's just a Johnny Depp thing that he always wears different contact lenses like the Mad Hatter, I don't know, but I was quite disappointed in the new look of Grindelwald. I mean, you can keep the same look but have a different actor playing it, and I don't think that that's really, it makes much sense. He's still kind of psychotic, but not kind of as dangerous feeling. Right at the very end, when he was there in front of everybody and being called out as basically being a liar, it was very anti-climax. He didn't go nuts. The only thing he did try to do was to kill Credence, but again, there was no real reason for that. I don't understand why he would kill Credence when Credence, up until that point, appeared to be very powerful and very loyal. So that wasn't really explained very well either. I've written this in a slightly strange order, so hopefully it will all come together in the editing, but let's go in with the opening scene being confusing, which I get the irony of this YouTube video. Okay, so the opening scene is a little bit confusing because it's basically Dumbledore sat in a restaurant waiting for Gellert Grindelwald. Now, this seems to have been a bit of a thing now, that you set this scene and everything goes a little bit bizarre and then it cuts without any explanation of, was that a fever dream? Was that an imagination thing? Was it a memory? No one really knows. And I say that that's a thing now because I was watching It Chapter 2, or whatever they call the second It film. So, you know, Pennywise the clown, the dancing clown with the weird red hair. They did that a lot in that, and I kind of got a bit bored of it and turned it off in the end. I'm not into horror movies particularly, and that one certainly doesn't scare me at all. I kind of get the whole idea of dissociative dreams and all of that sort of stuff, but when you're cutting from one thing to another without any explanation at all, sometimes it can be a bit confusing.
They're good at pooping.
So I wasn't really sure what this opening scene was all about, especially when the restaurant catches fire. Like, did it catch fire, or was it just a burning of a memory? I don't really understand that at all. I did notice in that scene, the background was sort of fading out to white. So all of the action in the background was typical sort of soap opera stuff, where people were just eating their meals in the background, and then suddenly they just faded out. And then it almost cut to them not being there at all. And I wasn't listening to what the two main characters were saying because I was too busy thinking, what's going on? I don't get it. And then we move into Credence, and Credence doesn't really do anything. He's just a bit of a vapid character who's just angry. Now, I know that in Harry Potter 5, he was angry, right? Order of the Phoenix, Harry was angry, totally get that. But there was a core of who he was still in that movie. And that was coming through from the books. Now, in the movies, it's just not really. Credence Barebone is a bit of a boring character because although he's got plenty of flaws, he hasn't really got the personality to carry it off. He's just angry, he's just boring. And I don't kind of get it. I don't know what he was there for. Yes, he's very powerful, and yes, he's done a couple of really bad things, and he was fighting with Dumbledore. That scene was interesting, but it didn't really go anywhere. So I wasn't terribly impressed with that. There's no explanation of the Chillin. So the Chillin is this beast that sees into the soul, and to begin with, you kind of don't get that. You don't understand what is this creature. And I say that you don't get it because it's pretty much the second scene when Newt is going around and there's that Chillin. Is it the second scene, the first scene? I'm not entirely. I think it's the second scene. I think it cuts from the restaurant burning and Dumbledore then looking wistful to then Newt basically going through a marshland trying to find a Chillin, which we learn is a Chillin later on. So don't get me wrong, it's not totally unexplained. But when they're sort of walking around this marshland and they're seeing this scaly creature, and I just thought, oh, is that a dragon? What's he trying to do? And then someone appears and takes this thing and kills the parent and takes the child, Chillin, and you just think, what are you doing and why are you doing that? Everyone obviously wants this animal, but why? And it was that why that's really missing from the whole movie. I don't understand any of it, which is really sad. Queenie and Jacob end up getting married at the end of this movie, which I find very bizarre for a couple of reasons. Firstly, Jacob isn't a wizard, and in the first two movies it's been made abundantly clear that Jacob and Queenie should not be able to get married because it's illegal in America. Okay, well maybe they got married in the UK, but they didn't. They got married in his bakery. So I don't understand why they got married in a bakery. I don't understand why they got married in New York. I don't understand how they got married in New York when it's illegal. And I don't understand how loads of people around them think that that's perfectly okay, including law-abiding citizens in the Professor Hicks. Dumbledore being outside, why was he not invited when he was instrumental in getting them back together? Tina Goldstein turns up. I get that she's the sister, and I get that she's been busy, but it's almost like she's shoehorned in to this movie at the very end. Now, I get that they had this whole COVID issue, and I get that there were a lot of challenges around making this movie and bringing it out at all. Totally get that. but purely from an entertainment point of view, all of that was really confusing. The other thing is the fact that Professor Hicks was there at all. Lali Hicks, I'm fairly sure that's it. I don't understand the point of her being there. Now, I'm not saying she shouldn't be there, but she is there and it's very unexplained. She's literally just a school teacher. We don't know whether she's a school teacher from Hogwarts or from Ilvermorny, and I deliberately haven't looked this up simply because I wanted to go in there and hopefully have the film explain it to me, and it didn't. Now I'm just wondering whether, if I hadn't read the Harry Potter books, whether the Harry Potter movies would make sense. Because obviously we haven't had books about the Fantastic Beasts films, so we don't know the story, we don't know people like Professor Hicks, we don't know who they are or where they come from or their backstory or their relationships or anything. And I'm just wondering whether, had the original 8 Harry Potter movies not had the backup of all of the novels, whether we would really understand what's going on and whether they're making the same mistakes that they did, sort of relying on a backstory that isn't there for most of the audience. So who is Lali Hicks and what the hell is that accent? Because it's almost American, but it's a bit too posh at times, and then it sort of slips back into American and then American posh, and it's just like, what is that accent? That's weird. She sounds very, very well-to-do, but she does it in a sort of American way. Now, I know that there's posh American people, but I've never heard that accent before, and it's weird. Then there were loads of other things in the centre of the movie, things like what was guarding Theseus, and why was he taken there, and how was he taken there, who was he taken there by. It didn't make any sense. It was almost like the trailer needed Newt to dance like an idiot and have all these crab things following him, and that's about it. It's like everything's shoehorned in so that you have an interesting trailer. Because don't get me wrong, the trailer got me very excited about the film, and it's not that I went in with high expectations and they were just lower but still good. It wasn't good. It was a bad experience. And for the Wizarding World, I'm a big fan of the Wizarding World generally. This movie, no. Even The Crimes of Grindelwald, I enjoyed and found redeeming features of that movie. Although it was still a bit confusing at times, having watched it again, I kind of get it. This movie, I didn't see any point in it.
No, definitely not.
We don't talk about Tina. Seriously, you hardly ever talk about Tina. It's literally just like, why is she not here? Oh, she's busy, right. And that's it. It's like, what? She's a central element of the first 2 movies, and she's busy. Okay, she's been promoted to the head of magical law enforcement in America. I kind of get that. But it's not a very good segue, I don't think. It's almost like the actress was unavailable. I know that she was like pregnant or something and wanted to shield because of COVID. Totally get that. So real world pressures kind of ruined that bit as well. I'm not going to smash on Catherine Waterstone, but there's a picture in Newt's suitcase of her sort of blinking and smiling and all that sort of stuff. So clearly they weren't estranged from one another, but at the same time she wasn't there until the very final end scene. So does that matter? Yeah, I think it really does. There was some sort of magic missing, pun intended. Bunty really does get wet knickers over Newt. She's properly mooning over this guy. And I found that kind of sickening. If anyone's really the redeeming, characterful, feeling element of this movie, it's probably Bunty. And for non-English viewers, the chances are you've almost never seen her before, except in The Crimes of Grindelwald, where she does make a fleeting appearance as, again, mooning over Newt. So you do kind of know that she's totally in love with the guy, and she goes off, and she is more in the movie than Tina. And probably more in the movie than Queenie as well. I haven't done a sort of screen time test, but she does seem to be a lot more prevalent. And I'm just wondering whether that's going to become a bit of an issue later on. She's also a good character, so hopefully she won't cause too much problems between Newt and Tina, because we do know that Tina ends up marrying Newt, which is, again, another reason why it was really weird that she wasn't in the movie. Dumbledore's love affair with Gellert Grindelwald is pushed far more to the fore now, and it's almost as a retaliation for real-world pressures on J.K. Rowling to be a bit more right-on, in my opinion. I don't think there's that need to put that front and centre. We know that Dumbledore and Gellert Grindelwald are in a relationship, or at least that Dumbledore is gay. We don't know necessarily that Gellert Grindelwald is gay, but we do kind of get it alluded to a little bit, but again, it's still a little bit meh. Now, this movie's called Secrets of Dumbledore, and I don't think we really got to the heart of any secrets. Yes, we know that Credence Barebone is now Aurelius Dumbledore, and that actually he isn't a brother, he's the son of Aberforth, so he's Dumbledore's nephew. So, okay, that's a new bit of information. Where does that go? What do we do with that information? Not much. Really not much at all. And that was very disappointing as well. Then we've got Minerva Mcgonagal, Professor McGonagall from the first 8 Harry Potter movies, who's an old woman then. She's in this movie, and yet in canon, she shouldn't be. Because she goes to Hogwarts and she's a seeker herself in Quidditch, playing as part of the Hogwarts team. And that doesn't happen until about the 70s, so I don't get it. That doesn't make any sense, and it's almost like, again, she was shoehorned in so that everyone goes, oh, that's a character I know. There's a lot more emphasis on Hogwarts this time, even though Hogwarts isn't necessary. There's a lot more emphasis on the Hog's Head and Hogsmeade, and again, it's not really necessary either. And I know that Aberforth is in this movie, sort of, but again, he's very vapid, he's angry at the world. I don't understand, I just don't get it. Crucially, there is no Voldemort, which I think is a mistake. My previous video, which is linked down in the description, talks about whether or not there should be Voldemort in this movie, because he does join Hogwarts at around about this sort of time. So I think it would have been quite nice to have almost Grindelwald defeated and Voldemort going, there's now an opening. Something like that, even just a tiny little snippet at the end of the movie to tie the whole thing together would have been quite nice. But that didn't happen. What was the point in the fire crab? I don't get that either. Other than a bit of cinematic boom, a bit of extra special effects spend, maybe. But beyond that, there wasn't really much point in the fire crab being there. And I don't even know whether it was a fire crab. There was some sort of creature holding Theseus hostage, and those tendrils, those snake-like tentacles, would go pretty much everywhere in what looked like a maze or a labyrinth, which I don't understand the biology of this thing, doing all of these twists and turns, or how it found out all of these people were trying to evade it. How would it sense that? I mean, I guess it's magical, but is that really a good enough excuse? I don't know. It's just almost like a reason for a run. Again, didn't make any sense to me at all. As I was reflecting on this last night, I was thinking, this is like a story told to me by a 5-year-old, just saying, oh, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and there's no narrative progression at all. And this is not something that I would expect from one of the world's best storytellers. I mean, she's a billionaire author. She knows how to write stories, and yet we're presented with just this list of information of this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and there's no progression at all. And then right at the very end, everything sort of gets tied together into, oh right, okay, and by the way, this is how it all ended. Boring. Really boring. I would say that it fell into the trap that the Harry Potter books started to fall into in around about book 5. There was far too much politics. And I totally get that the Wizarding world will be quite political, but you can do that in a fun way. I mean, for goodness sake, everyone's got magic wands, including Jacob Kowalski. You could make this more interesting. Instead, it's just these power plays with multiple different ministries of magic, and it was almost like this is a way of setting up. There's a German ministry of magic, there's an Austrian one, there's a Bhutan one, there's... still my head in. It's just annoying. Even talking about it is annoying. So what do we learn about Aberforth? Well, not very much. We did learn that the blood trust or blood pact was broken at the end of the movie. again, the way it was broken, it was almost like, oh, well, we need this to break. How can we do that? And that was sort of explained by Dumbledore at the end, but almost like the last Harry Potter movie, there was too much at the end, I thought, that it was just like, okay, the climax is finished. Why should we carry on watching? Oh, it's because there's a bit of extra scenage. So that was the wedding of Jacob and Queenie, which was very underwhelming. And then there was the discussion by Dumbledore about why the Blood Pact broke, and it's because he was trying to protect while Grindelwald was trying to attack. And it was that fundamental difference in their approach that meant that they couldn't coexist as a blood pact, and that's why it broke. I kind of get that, I do get that, but I don't think that it was very well explained. I don't think the timing of that explanation was very good. There's nothing made of the fact that Credence is still alive. There's no explanation as to whether Credence then goes back to his father, or whether he dies, or whether Fawkes the Phoenix is the Phoenix that we see throughout the whole movie. There's none of that. And it's like there's so many loose ends, but you've tied up stuff that we didn't really care about, but you've left untied all of the things that we did care about. And it's called The Secrets of Dumbledore. What secrets have we really learnt, other than the fact that Aberforth has got a son? Beyond that, I don't think we've learned anything about Dumbledore at all. So we know that Aberforth has got a son, and we know that Dumbledore is being bowed to by the Chillen, which means he's got a pure soul. So for any detractors out there, by the way, Dumbledore always did things for the best. So he did it with a pure heart. Whether it was a wise move or whether it was a cold-hearted move, he always did it from a place of caring and love and all of that sort of stuff. But beyond that, we haven't learned anything about the Dumbledore family at all. So what did you think of the movie? I know I've really slated it. I do like the franchise, generally speaking, but that movie was bloody awful. So please let me know what you think down in the comments. Check out all of my links to all of my socials. Massive thank you to these wonderful people, my members and patrons from Patreon and YouTube, and you can become one with the links down in the description. There's also a link to my shop as well. Have a look at that, and I will see you again next time with some more magical awesomeness. But until next time, as always,
Stay magical.